Hello and welcome to episode 119 of Driver Seat Blog Radio. As always, I'm your host, David G. Firestone. It's a really busy week for me. My family's coming back from Arizona this week. I'm only going to be able to do a short episode this week. I'm going to put AEW to next week. I got a lot to say about them, but I just don't have the time. We're going to be focusing on racing news this week, specifically on IndyCar, because there was a slew of IndyCar stories this week that don't paint the organization in a good light. Now, our first story, we talk about the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Now, I personally felt the race was a good one. Some people disagree with me on that. That's fine. But before the race at Long Beach, the three Team Penske cars, including the winner Joseph Newgarden, were penalized for infractions. Now, here's a summation of the situation from ESPN, link in the description. Quote, Joseph Newgarden was stripped of his victory in the IndyCar Series opening race for manipulating his push-to-pass system. Penske teammate Scott McLaughlin, who finished third in the series opener on the downtown streets of St. Petersburg, Florida, was also disqualified. Will Power, who finished fourth, was not disqualified, but he was docked 10 points. Now, these disqualifications gave the victory to Pato O'Ward, who finished second, and it was the first win for McLaren's IndyCar team since 2022. Although Newgarden is accused of cheating during the March 10th opener, IndyCar says the manipulation wasn't discovered until Sunday's morning warm-up in Long Beach, California, nearly 2 months later. A review of the data from the St. Petersburg race showed that Team Penske manipulated the overtake system so that the three Penske drivers could use push-to-pass on starts and restarts. According to IndyCar rules, the use of overtake isn't available until the car reaches the alternate start-finish line. End quote. Now, I'm going to also link an article in the description about the technical aspects of the infraction because it's way too long and way too technical to discuss here. But it's very good at discussing the ins and outs of the infractions in question. Now, I need to point out that everyone on the Penske side of things states that this was quote-unquote unintentional, but after reading the second article, it's clear there were too many people involved who were either aware of the situation or did nothing to fix it for it to be considered unintentional or an accident. Look, as a racing fan since 1990, I get that the best teams in the business push the rules to the limit, and that's never been up for debate. Look at guys like Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt and Ray Evernham. But there is a major difference between bending the rules and outright breaking the rules. Now, Penske has, on two separate occasions in 2024, blatantly broken the rules. The first was the Joey Logano glove fiasco, and then there was this. Roger Penske does not have a good look right now. And there are many people, and I'll discuss this more in a little bit, but there are many people who feel as though Penske should sell IndyCar, and given how 2024 has gone so far, it's not hard to see why. Between the thermal fiasco and now this cheating scandal, IndyCar doesn't look very good. Now, factor in that the ratings are down and NBC has been rather lackluster in terms of their sports presentation, and fans are beginning to get sick of it all. I've seen the ratings. They aren't good. IndyCar needs to turn things around, or else the ratings will get worse and more fans will leave. I think the only available option is for Penske to sell the team. I'll discuss that more in a little bit because there's a lot more that happened between then and now. Now, fast forward to this weekend's race at Barber. Prior to the race, an impromptu 30-minute meeting was held between Penske and the team owners at Barber Motorsports Park. Again, according to sources, this lasted about half an hour, and while it was a positive conversation, it really didn't lead to all that much. And interestingly, those who attended the meeting had very little to say about it, but Penske, from what I've been able to determine, was sticking with the it was a mistake angle, which pretty much proves my point. Now, the next case might on the surface seem like they're doing the right thing, but nah, it's the right thing done the wrong way. Because the next two stories feature politics and racing. Now, I read a political article a few days ago, link in the description, which takes us back to 2011. Now, the 2011 Indy 500 was being promoted as the 100th anniversary Indy 500 and the centennial Indianapolis 500. Now, this needs to be explained. The first Indy 500 took place in 1911, but due to World War I and World War II, the actual 100th running of the race didn't take place until 2016 because of 5 years of war and the races were canceled. So obviously you have a lot of festivities, you have a lot of big names, you have a lot of pageantry. But on April 5th, 2011, Donald Trump was named as the pace car driver for the Indy 500. This quickly proved very controversial due to his public image and comments about Barack Obama and his political associations. Well, this was very quick and brutal in terms of backlash, with Michael Wallach, a local attorney, starting a Facebook page basically calling on the Indy 500 promoters to, quote, bump Trump. Now, eventually it was announced that Trump would pull out of the race due to time constraints and work obligations, with AJ Foyt rightly taking his place. Now, first off, I don't know if this was because Trump really had work obligations or if he was told, look, we don't want you anymore, hit the road. But there doesn't seem to be any concrete evidence one way or the other. But this whole news story became relevant recently because Michael Wallach, like a lot of people, myself included, thinks that racing should be free from politics. So does IndyCar. Now, this story comes from Marshall Pruitt on Racer.com, link in the description. I did cut a bit of it out because it does get a little wordy at times. Quote, with a presidential election approaching in November, the IndyCar Series has made the decision to distance itself from the contest and disallow political branding on the cars that compete under their sanction at the upcoming Indy 500. Racer has learned one entry was filed for the May 26 race with the intent of promoting both Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and former President Donald Trump on the bodywork. According to the series, the request was denied. IndyCar does not approve sponsorships associated with elected officials, candidates for political offices, or political action committees, and Indy's spokesperson told Racer. Considering the charged and often divisive spirit of politics, the call to leave the run for the White House out of next month's greatest spectacle in racing is a wise one for the series that is not burdened with an excessive number of fans when compared to NASCAR and Formula One. Rather than risk appeasing half the crowd in the viewing audience while driving away the other half, IndyCar has asked the unnamed team to present its car with a more traditional motor racing sponsors for the 108th Indy 500. In another recent IndyCar tie-in with Mr. Trump, he was asked to give the command to start engines for March's $1 million challenge at California's The Thermal Club. Racer understands the potential appearance by the 45th president was arranged by the leadership of the exclusive thermal road racing facility and was part of broadcast plans until it was nixed for unknown reasons the night before the Sunday race. End quote. Okay. There's a hell of a lot to unpack here. Number one, I will give IndyCar credit where credit's due. I agree 100% with the idea of banning politics in auto racing, especially the Indy 500. But where I'm struggling to wrap my head around is why this car would have ads for Trump and RFK Jr. together. What? Okay, last time I checked, these two dipshits were running against each other. Above and beyond that, at the time of writing and time of recording, these two were going at it on social media, each accusing the other of taking support from one another. Why would you have them on the same car? It's not like a boxing match or a UFC match where you've got, two competitors and they're mortal enemies, but you're promoting them at the same time because you're going to use them both. This is a presidential election where it's a winner. It's two guys hate each other and one guy's taking the win. What the fuck? Now, we have the revelation that Trump was supposed to give the command at the thermal event. It was organized by the rich white people that own the track, so that really doesn't surprise me. And while it's unclear why he canceled, in actuality, this was a blessing. This was the last thing that IndyCar needed for the thermal event. Because I hate to be the bearer of bad news to anyone in the thermal community, but the thermal event sucked pond water. Nobody walked away from that race looking good. Nobody walked away from that race happy. IndyCar had an ostrich egg worth of egg on their face, and I don't blame them. If Trump had been involved, it would have been a PR nightmare and a total disaster. and would have caused IndyCar more issues than they're already dealing with. But the whole thing, the way they handled it, is perplexing on many levels because, on the one hand, IndyCar is banning political advertising to avoid alienating half of the American population. Okay, that's understandable, if not condonable. On the other hand, you had one of the most polarizing and controversial American presidents of all time not only was going to be driving the pace car at one of their biggest events, but also giving the command at another race. I mean, what, 6 of one, half dozen of the other here? And I don't care what side of the political, what's the word I'm looking for, political spectrum you're on, you can't argue that Trump's not controversial. You can't argue that a lot of people don't like Trump. You can't argue that he would have been not good for their image. I mean, that's just a fact of life. I'm sorry. But the stories here illustrate that IndyCar is dealing with a similar issue to AEW. Both AEW and IndyCar have major lacks of self-awareness. Of the major racing sanctioning bodies in the U.S., IndyCar is the most minor of them. Between the lack of ratings, lack of buzz, lack of promotion, lack of marketing, IndyCar has been languishing for years. Yet, rather than identify the problems and at least try to fix them, they just keep doing the same things over and over again, hoping that things will improve. Definition of insanity. The absolute definition of insanity. Well, when you're looking at this from a fan's perspective, and their fans are not showing up, they're not watching on TV, they rarely, if ever, get over 1 million viewers. How's that approach working out for you? But as I said, IndyCar has no idea how bad the situation is, like AEW. And like AEW, the person who has the most to lose from all of these issues, for some inexplicable reason, doesn't seem to care about the failures or is trying to fix them. Penske could very easily fix their own problems. It's not like they can't. I mean, you don't get to make billions of dollars and buy basically a major sanctioning body unless you're not a smart businessman. That's just the way it works. But for whatever reason, he just doesn't want to do anything. You came in knowing how bad the TV ratings are and how bad the fan support is and how bad you're losing viewers and attendees at races, but you're doing nothing to fix it. Now, I don't think in terms of the TV that NBC is going to get rid of IndyCar, and that's not a positive thing because, quite frankly, NBC Sports Package is a joke at this point. They don't have anything else in terms of major professional racing outside of NASCAR and football, the NFL and IndyCar. They really don't have anything. They don't have anything. They don't have their own independent sports network. Way to go, guys. So they need all the help they can get right now. But I think the lack of ratings and the lack of buzz will cost them both in terms of both viewers and finances. I think if Roger Penske cares at all about the future of IndyCar, he needs to get rid of the old guard and hire new people. Fire everybody and just start over. Sometimes in life, that's your best option. Sometimes it's not about doing what's best for the old guard. Just burn them all down, give them a nice severance package, goodbye, good luck. Bring in new people, let's try something new. What they're doing right now clearly isn't working. But because, again, I don't know what the term for this is, but there are a lot of leaders, be it in business, be it in sports, be it whatever, who have a total lack of self-awareness about how bad they are. And these people will never get better. Like there was a controversy, I'm trying to remember the name of this company, I'm blanking on it, but there was this woman who founded a tech startup that got bought out by Google. Well, Google decided that they're going to hire everyone else except her, so they let her go. And she goes on this whole post like, oh, Google is sexist because they got rid of me. No. Google figured out that you were the reason this company would never be successful. Okay? She honestly thought she was the smartest woman in business, and well, she wasn't. Best of luck to you. The sport of IndyCar has been making bad moves and bad decisions and missing cues and missing opportunities since the mid 1990s. I mean, I could go into detail, but between the IRL kart split, their inability to compete with NASCAR at any level, the fact that bad decisions and bad moves have run off sponsors and manufacturers, teams, and fans, as well as just the alienating of even some of their more supportive fans, it's just not working. It hasn't been working for years, and it's not going to work well anytime soon unless major changes are made. So the bottom line here is that no matter how you slice it, no matter how you analyze it, no matter how you look at it, IndyCar is right now reaping what they've been sowing since the 1990s. The harvest is very light, and unless major changes are made, the harvest will only get worse. There is a very good chance that IndyCar could go bankrupt. There's a very good chance. They're not selling tickets. That's patently obvious. They're not generating viewers. That's patently obvious. They're not marketing their sport very well. That's patently obvious. They're not doing anything to bring in new fans. That's patently obvious. How much more information do you need that what they're doing right now isn't working? And I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear any excuses. When you have a race that anybody with a functional TV can tune in and watch without having to pay for cable, and you can't even generate 1 million viewers, that says a lot. And I don't want to hear, oh, well, they're competing against the NBA and the NHL right now and blah, 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 and the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. Look, their ratings suck no matter what. Again, I've been looking at the ratings for the last few years. They sucked then and they suck now. So I don't want to hear any excuses. It's just bad decision after bad decision after miscue after miscue after mistake after mistake after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. And I think it might be too late. I honestly do believe that there could be a chance, if major changes happen, unless that happens, goodbye and good luck. I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but you gotta understand that it is what it is. And you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm done for this week. I was going to talk about Dave Malukas M-A-L-U-K-A-S being released, or the mannequin incident at Barber, but I can't. I'm done. Normal operations will resume next week. I'm B. Fresley. If you like, comment, subscribe. I will see you next week.